By the seaside, there was a giant human boy who was raised by fishermen. Even though he looked like a kid, it took 5 people working together just to sew him a diaper. It took 9 people working as a team to make his 8-foot-long socks. His appetite was even more mind-blowing. To feed him, they needed a whole train carrying 28 tons of milk bottles. Time flew by fast, under the loving care of the fishermen. This giant boy named Paul soon reached school age, but his massive body couldn't squeeze into the classroom, so he usually sat outside to study. Paul was always the first student to answer every question in class. The teacher was always thrilled to have such a big and smart student. However, while Paul's body was as huge as a mountain, his heart was like that of an innocent child. His interests and hobbies were just like any other kids. When they played together, the children always made room for him ahead of time, because he was a bit clumsy. When Paul jumped into the pond, the water level would drop 65 feet, but the kids never complained about him. Instead, they used Paul's height for fun, playing diving games. When Christmas came around, the whole village was filled with joy and excitement. The fisherman made Paul a huge, sharp axe and gave it to him as a gift. Paul considered this gift the most precious thing in the world. He immediately started chopping down big trees like he was cutting vegetables. Within days, Paul had turned the forest into a fishing village. His hard work changed the fishermen's lives. As time went on, Paul grew bigger and stronger. This further perfected his tree cutting skills. Now he could bury what was left of a thick tree trunk in the ground with just 1 foot. On a bone-chilling cold day, he was about to make fire by rubbing wood together. But then he suddenly heard wailing sounds coming from not far away. Curiosity got the better of him, so he stood up to take a look. He then pushed away the thick fog with his hands. He saw an old bull that was frozen stiff. The old bull had lost all feeling from the cold. Paul quickly brought it to the fire to warm it up, bringing it back to life and vitality. Paul's kindness won over the bull's heart. In an instant, the two became close friends and started walking together. Wherever they went, their footprints turned into lakes. With the bull's help, Paul became even more powerful. He could easily chop down even the thickest forests. To solve the village's water shortage problem, Paul used his strength to redirect 2 rivers. He dug a huge well with his bare hands, creating a 300-foot-tall waterfall. This made it easy to transport lumber by boat, making the work effortless. But the winding river course often caused obstacles, so Paul came up with a clever trick. He anchored the boat on the riverbank and straightened the waterway with the bull's help. Thanks to this method, lumber transportation started flowing smoothly without any hitches. But as more and more ships came to the port, some merchants kept showing up too. They were selling chainsaws for $100. One claimed his machine was way more efficient than Paul's work. Hearing this, Paul flew into a rage. He saw himself as the village's protector. Now some little machine was challenging his power, so Paul challenged the merchant to a contest. It was decided that the loser would have to leave town. The competition started the next day. Paul began cutting trees with his giant axe, while the merchant used his chainsaw. Both were moving at the same speed. The bull backed Paul up, while the merchant's convoy was also hauling lumber at high speed. In no time, the forest became 2 separate paths. After the contest, both sides had wood piles reaching up to the sky. The referee had a tough time measuring the height of both piles. Paul's wood pile was 820 feet tall. Everyone thought he had one, but when they measured the merchant's pile, it turned out to be 8 feet taller than Paul's. Seeing this result, everyone present was stunned. Paul accepted his defeat and left the village sad and dejected, but at least neither of them would have to work anymore.